Informal meeting of city commissions called to order. Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Brown? Dr. Estrop?
Here.
Mrs. Houston?
Here.
Mrs. Tackett?
Here.
Mr. Rue?
Here. City manager?
Yes, Commissioners, we have one work session item tonight, and that is with our Service Director, Chris Moore, who is going to give an update on lead water service regulations. Chris?
Good evening, Commissioners. So tonight, we're only going to talk about one very small aspect of the new lead rules that have went into effect this year. And what we're going to talk about is a letter that is going to be mailed out to nearly every citizen in our community. I wanted to make sure everyone was aware of it before they got the letter and had questions or it caused any alarm. So before we jump in, anytime I talk about lead, I like to make sure everyone knows we are in full compliance with all of the U.S. and Ohio EPA regulations related to lead. We have never had a lead measurement in our water that is anywhere close to the limits that are put upon us. Our water, in my estimation, is as lead-free as it can be. I drink it every day and have zero concerns. So, having said that, we'll move into what everyone will be seeing. So I don't expect you to be able to read those. That's just a pretty picture of these letters everyone will get. The rules state that they have to be mailed to everyone who has a water service that is not a new copper or plastic service, which in an older community like ours is a lot of the water services. So what everyone will see is we have 430 people who will get letters that say you have a lead water service. Those are ones we know they have lead. We've touched them, we've looked at them, we know they're lead. So 430 folks will get a letter that says they have lead. That doesn't mean you have a lead problem in your house. That means that you have a lead water service. 1,405 people will get a letter saying they have a galvanized line requiring replacement. So what the new rules have done, they've looked at any line that is galvanized that was ever downstream of lead, because the belief is that lead can latch onto the galvanized and then continue to leach out into the water. So if a line was ever downstream of lead, or we can't prove it was never downstream of lead, we have to send one of these letters to the 1,405 individuals. The big number is unknown. We have 19,241 letters that will go out letting people know that their service is unknown. Those are the draft copies I've laid in front of you because that is the most common letter that will go out. So this is where the material on either side, the public side, the stuff out in the street, or on the private side, everything from the curb into the house, is unknown. And then this also includes what are formally classified as unknown, unlikely lead, which there are 5,849 of those. And those are services that were installed well after lead was in use, but we don't have a good record of what it is. There's some stuff from the 60s, 70s, and even early 80s where we have a tap card, and that card shows a service was installed, when, where, how much everyone was charged, but there's no record of what the material was. So we have to determine what that material is. And then there are 2,192 properties that will get no letter at all. So if you get no letter at all, that means you have a copper or a plastic service that's been verified, and there's no cause for you to do anything. So those are the folks that will get letters. Those are the categories. So to summarize the letter, the first big section of the letter explains this is part of the Clean Water Act and talks about whether it's lead, galvanized requiring replacement, or it's unknown. It just explains the why behind this. And then we have to explain everything we're doing. One thing that we do is triennial testing, and the reason we do triennial testing is because we have proven time and time again that lead is not present throughout our water system So we only have to test every 3 years. I will tell you, if any of you ever want to be tested as part of this triennial testing, we struggle to get people to cooperate on those tests because they're cumbersome for a property owner. But it is something we're very willing to get out there and test for it. And then something else the letter will talk about is corrosion control, and that's one of the things that really helps our water system in many ways. Is as we treat our water, one of the processes adds sodium hexametaphosphate. We call it sodium hex. It's something that's been in our drinking water since the plant was built in 1958. And what it does is keeps the pipes from corroding and creates a very nice scale on the inside of all of our pipes. So whatever material the pipe is made of doesn't make its way back into the water line. So that's a very good thing for our water system. The next section talks about the health effects of lead exposure, which these are things we've heard about for years, whether it was with lead paint or lead in our water lines, decreased IQ and attention span, their cardiovascular issues, high blood pressure, nervous system issues. And part of the reason behind this is lead bioaccumulates in your body if you ingest enough lead, it doesn't go anywhere. It just stays in your body and accumulates. Next, we talk about what folks can do to reduce lead. And the main thing anyone can do, and this is a good idea really regardless of what type of plumbing you have, is when you wake up in the morning, let your faucet run for a little bit. What I do at home, and I have copper lines, I turn the water on and I put my finger under it and I wait till I feel the temperature change. And you can feel it because the water that's been sitting in the pipes in your house all night is about the same temperature as your house. And the water coming from underground is about 52 to 54 degrees. You can feel that temperature drop. When you've done that, you know you're getting water from the outside. In many cases, if you wake up and use the restroom and shower, your lines are flushed. You can let it run very, very shortly to get that little bit that was right there, and they're flushed. The EPA suggests using cold water for cooking because you can't boil lead out of water anyway. Lead is more common in the hot water. They recommend using cold water for cooking. There are filters that some people use. They're a pitcher. You can get them at most big box stores or home improvement stores that will filter lead out, and then you can dump from the pitcher. And then lastly, something you can do, if there's a plumbing fixture you drink out of a lot, you can replace it with something that was made after 2014. There was a pretty big line in the sand drawn in 2014 about how much lead content was allowed in plumbing fixtures. And in many cases, most of the lead people see in their homes is from their plumbing fixture right there. It's not from the pipes. It comes from right in the fixture. The replacing fixtures can go a long way. One other thing that I don't have on the list, but it helps, is on your faucet there's a little aerator underneath that keeps the water from spraying and gets out impurities. If you screw off that aerator and clean it out periodically, you'll take care of any lead that's accumulated in there. So then, what can you do about your lead service line? Well, the big answer is replace it. We don't see people beating the door down to replace their water service lines, but that is, if you want to make sure you don't have a lead line, that's how you do it. We have a program in place where if property owners are interested in replacing their lead service line, the city will pay 50% of that cost, up to $1,500. We put that in place probably 5 or so years ago. Now that the new rules are in place, I will be working to come back to you with something that is more in line with the new rules, that focuses not just on lead, but on galvanized requiring replacement. But I did not want to bring that back to you prematurely until the rules were finalized. And then lastly, there's some websites up there, and all of those websites have great information about lead. I'm actually very proud of what we put together on our website, which is the first one up there. Ohio EPA has good stuff, but you have to go to their website and actually search for the word lead to get to it. And, the US EPA has information also. If you ever have a question or concern, our phone number is up there. It's 937-525-5800. We want to talk to people about it. If you wonder what your service is made out of, we do too. We want to come look at it. We want to see if it's lead or if it's copper or it's galvanized. So by all means, reach out to us. We can come out and look. We can show you how to test it to see what it might be, however you want to handle it. Any questions from commissioners?
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Is there anything that a consumer, a person could look for in their water that might tell them that, maybe you've got lead? I know sometimes we have some old cast iron pipes or galvanized pipes, and you'll get a rust color in the water sometimes, particularly when it hasn't been used for a while. Is there anything like that you can look for in terms of lead that might tip you off that you've got a problem?
I know of nothing that will let you visibly look at this and go, I shouldn't drink it. When you get the discoloring, in many cases, that is the corrosion control material. When it sits stagnant too long, parts will flake off and you'll get that rust color.
Right.
That's why sometimes when we flush fire hydrants in a neighborhood, people will call and say our water's red or our water's brown. It's not harmful, but it's scary when you turn on the faucet.
So in that case, is it also, it's an issue of age? When was lead used for plumbing purposes, roughly? What years?
Not a lot of years, which is good. But it's a lot of years we were building houses. There was a period in the late 40s, early 50s where it was very common.
Okay, so if I own a home, was built in the 40s, 50s, I probably ought to be calling your department and have you come out and check my water or show me how to check it.
Yeah, we would gladly come out and see what the material is, and that's a time we can also, many cases we can go in a house and we can look and see what type of pipe is coming in, but then we can also look at our records and see if we know what's in the street. We can let people know that there's a copper line from the street to the curb, and then you have galvanized coming in your house, so you should be in a good spot.
Okay, thank you.
Chris, would you recap? We don't do questions during work sessions, but thank you. Would you recap the first part of your presentation? Who's getting letters? How many you say we're going out? So folks can hear that again. Maybe even the newspaper could understand that and report on this, and I'm sure we'll share it on social media as well.
So there are 430 people we know have lead services that will get a letter particular to lead. There are 1,450 that have galvanized that could have once been downstream of lead, or we can't prove they were never downstream of lead, so they will get a letter that looks a little different, but is very similar to the others. And then lastly, there are 19,241 unknown services, and they will get a letter saying those are unknown. And those are people we would really like to hear from to see if we can nail down what that unknown. And then if you don't get a letter, don't be alarmed, because there are 2,192 people who will not get letters. Those would be people primarily, if we're going to just draw Northern Estates, Green Lawn, Kingsgate, Glencoe, places built in the 70s and on.
Any other comments or questions from Commissioner?
Chris, I just wanted to say thanks for everything you do. I know you're continually dealing with changing regulations and sometimes some surprise mandates. So thanks for everything you and your department do.
Thank you.
Commissioners, that's the only work session item we have for tonight.
Is there a motion to adjourn the work session?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Clerk, call the roll.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mrs. Houston,
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett,
Yes.
Mr. Rue.
Yes. The formal meeting of the City Commission is called to order. Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Brown, Dr. Estrop,
Here.
Mrs. Houston.
Here.
Mrs. Tackett,
Here.
Mr. Rue.
Here. Tonight's invocation will be by Pastor Jeremy Hudson, who's also our Springfield City Police Chaplain. Please stand for the invocation and the pledge.
Let's pray. Great and gracious Heavenly Father, we pause right now not to invite your presence into this meeting, but rather to acknowledge that you are already here. Collectively, we look to you, O God. We seek your direction in all that will be discussed and decided in this place today. Lord, we look to you as the Prince of Peace, and we ask that your peace would prevail in this room and in this community, that our actions, as well as our words, bear a mighty resemblance of you, of how you loved and cared for people, even those that did not align or agree with you. Help us to love each other in that way. Lord, we ask that your Spirit would be the prevailing agent of this meeting tonight, from the tone and tenor of opinions to be shared all the way to the discerning guidance of any decisions made. We look to you and your leading in this place. Lord, as you taught us to pray, we ask that the Father's will be done here tonight in this place, as well as tomorrow in our nation, just as it is in heaven. And we declare our trust in you for what you are doing. Finally, God, we ask a blessing to be poured out tonight on all those that are gathered here. We ask a blessing on our city commission members and our city officials. We ask a blessing on each and every one of our city employees, as well as all the people who call Springfield home. We pray this in the mighty name of your Son, Jesus. Amen. To the flag, United States, to the republic for which it stands, nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There a motion to approve minutes from last meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Houston,
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mr. Rue.
Yes. The City Commission remains committed to creating a meeting environment that allows for civil and constructive dialogue as we work together on the challenges facing our community. Tonight, we'll continue to have public comment in the beginning of our formal meeting. Those wish to speak will fill out a comment card located on the table outside the forum door. The no cards will be accepted 15 minutes after roll call of the formal meeting. Failure to complete the card in its entirety and the information requested will be deemed you ineligible to speak at this meeting. Speakers who reside in Clark County will only be the individuals invited to speak and must present their either a driver's license or state ID. If a speaker has been found to knowingly provide false information or on public comment card, will be disqualified from this meeting and the next meeting to speak. After the public comment period, we'll hold the City Commission comment period to provide the opportunity for commissioners to answer. We encourage you to stay for that. We'll also have an opportunity for our staff to answer questions. We also ask that the city manager and the staff will answer the questions that have been posed during that time unless they require additional research. Questions requiring additional research will be followed up in the next couple of days, and the person asking the question will be contacted provided they've given all their information. All questions not answered during the meeting will also be posted on the city's website prior to the next commission meeting. Again, we want to create a conducive environment for constructive dialogue, and will continually to learn and evolve as we create such an environment. After the comment period, we'll take a 5-minute intermission before proceeding with the legislative agenda. Due to the heightened security measures, we ask that members of the audience not approach the dais. We'll begin with public comments, and I will ask Diane Daniels to go to the podium. You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening. Hello, Mayor Rue. I had an opportunity over the last week and a half to watch a clip of you speaking at the Unity and Peace March last Saturday. I'm partially in agreement with your opening statement about hate groups and outside influencers coming to Springfield to seed dissension and to state their political positions. You have been quite prolific in calling out hate groups that take an anti-migrant position. So I have a question for you. We all know about the Blood Tribe. You made it very clear, and so did the newspapers, that they were not welcome here. I totally agree. Do you know why they were here? Oh, I would ask you to answer that question, but since I was waiting 6 weeks for answer to my other question, I'm going to answer for you. They were here to balance the occupation of the city building on 2 dates in August by a group who were here to provide security for the president of the local NAACP. So did that mean our police force was not adequate to provide protection for the local president of the NAACP? The group in question that occupied the city building to provide protection not once but twice has been designated by the Anti-Defamation League and the Southern Poverty Law Center as being a hate group, long known for its views on anti-Semitism, homophobia, and anti-white bigotry. Their extreme rhetoric and activities have earned them a prominent position among organized hate groups. And who was this group? Well, this group was none other than the Nation of Islam. But oh wait, we had another hate group appear in Springfield. My curiosity is whether this particular group was awarded a parade permit. I ask because they blocked the traffic and occupied Sunset and John Street and blocked traffic on South Limestone not once but twice. And who was this group? Well, since it was not in the newspaper, I'll tell you. This particular group also appears on the hate group radar of the Southern Poverty Law Center and Anti-Defamation League for their position of anti-Semitic, homophobic, and anti-white rhetoric. And who is this group? They are a sect of the Black Hebrew Israelite movement known as the Israel United in Christ movement. And interestingly, there have not been any statements made that I can find regarding them being a hate group by you. It's clearly evident, and this is just my opinion, that your biased positions on hate groups therefore disqualifies you to adequately address the concerns of your citizens. That was the first part of your speech. Now to the second part of your speech about hope and unity. I am not a racist. Does that trigger you? Well, it seems that it does. When I use that statement, I'm making a declaration. But understand this, I am not a racist, I'm a realist. And a lot of the folks who were up here and said those words were to let you know what was going on. We see beyond the dollar signs that you stamp on the migrants' foreheads, dollars you need to make our city and yourself look good, dollars backed by the federal government which you value over longtime Springfielders, some whose families have lived here for over a century or more. Citizens, we love our community. I love my community. But on the basis of your rhetoric at that meeting, at that little unity march, I think that you should do us all a
Thank
favor
you. Your
and turn in
time's
your
up.
resignation.
Jacob Hayden?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, and City Manager. I'm here again on behalf of the Haitian Community Alliance. Last time I was here, Mr. Mayor, I was devastated because there was a lot of complaints about Haitian immigrants. But tonight, Mr. Mayor, I have good news. We have heard all the complaints. We are taking actions. We've been taking actions since 3 weeks ago when we heard the complaints. And part of the action, Mr. Mayor, we are an organization that put together 15 plus Haitian entities and organizations here in Springfield. We have been putting together programs, and some of our programs is the Safe Driving Program. We have been educating our Haitian people via the NDL radio station and other radio talk shows we have to teach them how to behave behind the wheels. We're not trying to replace the driving school. We're encouraging them to go to driving school. We encourage them on a daily basis before they get behind the wheels to go to driving school. But we're giving them some tips when they get out there trying to drive and how to get the driver's license, how to start the process to help the BMV with some of the long line that they have there, which caused some frustration amongst the local residents. We also, Mr. Mayor, came up with this Creole hotline. The Creole hotline is part of our Creole Connect program we have to bridge the gap because there's a big language barrier. Myself, Mr. Mayor, I've been here for quite a while and I'm still trying to speak English properly. And how folks who just got here, they don't know how to speak English. So we try to bridge that gap to help them via our Creole Connect program. We have the hotline. It's being used right now. We have been testing testing at the BMVs for the past couple of weeks, and we are seeing good results. So we're gonna expand our hotline to other government offices, such as law enforcement as well, the police department, so we can assist our police officers. Sometimes they get tied up on the street handling a situation where no one understands what they're trying to say. Another initiative we're taking, Mr. Mayor, we've been trying to make ourselves an asset to the Haitian Coalition. The Haitian Coalition, they've been fighting for us as a community. They've been utilize all the resources to help us as a community. Now we are using ourselves as an asset for the Haitian Coalition to benefit our Haitian community and the local residents. Also, before I leave, Mr. Mayor, we've produced a magazine. It's going to publish monthly. The way to help the resident to understand our culture, understand us as a people.
Jacob, thank you. Your time's up. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Jessica Schaefer?
Hello, everybody. I'm going to do my usual here. The sad little cosplay neo-Nazi boys and the hanger-ons and the try-hards who continue to try to target me, including those of you who live locally who think you're really anonymous online, but you're not. Have a fun week. Your sad attempts to be oh so scary really don't work. You really think I made it into my 40s with the backbone I have to stand up here to be afraid and to be scared of your sad, pathetic, juvenile name-calling and sad
Jessica,
videos?
are these comments directed at the commission?
They
Because
are.
that's what I need you to do is address the commission,
I
okay?
apologize.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's very boring, and I'm very glad that I can live rent-free in people's heads. It's as simple as that. To my fellow community members, including the city commissioners, I don't think people realize the amount of safety that is being presented by allowing and supporting hate to continue in our community. There are a lot of risk levels to people in our community. People who you love because of the tactics being put in our community by these hate groups. They are using dating apps and service apps to send people to people's homes at all hours of the night. There is a higher risk that you or someone you love will be shot or killed or harmed because of the groups that come in here and use you are using also other community members to attempt to harm people. They try to write checks that they don't cash, and it's going to be our community that pays the price, and I don't think you guys realize that. I don't think you understand when people speak about hate, and yes, there are hate groups on all sides, and nobody denies that, but only one side is using our community members as tools against each other. It's as simple as that. Anyhow, moving on from the sad little boys who wear their costumes and feel the need to threaten people because they don't really have any self-worth or value, I would like to address an actual safety issue on our street. Can we please have something done about the ATVs, four-wheelers, and go-karts that are not licensed and not insured and have no safety equipment running our streets at all hours of the night? We talk about, everybody else not having insurance and everybody else being a safety risk, but there's plenty of other safety risks besides unlicensed adult drivers. And it doesn't seem like anything gets done about it. I have videos of people running the streets. I have videos of where they live at because I have a dash cam. And I understand the police can't chase them. There's a safety issue there. But something needs to be done by our law enforcement to address the actual safety issue before someone gets ran over and harmed. It's just the reality of the situation. The other part is please vote for Springfield City and please vote for the CTC. We need both of those things very badly in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Noel Bells?
You guys know who I am and you know where I live. I came to you on or about August the 13th with a genuine concern. And on September the 10th, you tried to discount me by saying that what I had spoken about was not true. And you have no idea what I'd gone through. For 2 years, I have sat on the sidelines because this terrifies me. Standing in front of people and speaking in public is something that sets my anxiety up here. So I sat back. And when I came to you with a legitimate concern and you tried to discount me, you made me feel like some sort of a fool. And the issues are still there. I am still watching. These issues go on, just not as bad. But I just want you to know that now I am trying a different tactic. I stand here in the same spot that my father stood 41 years ago, and I hold up what I call as my red badge of courage. In these envelopes, they are self-addressed to me. They have stupid questions in them that I would like answered and that I'm not getting answered, and I would like for each of the commission to have one and the city manager. And it's going to tell me who really cares about my city. If you care, all I'm begging is, please send these back to me. You guys don't even have to pay for them. I've already done that. Because I want to know that things are happening, and I don't want to have to be here. Right now, I don't know whether to puke or run away or keep speaking. My anxiety is at an all-time high. Please help me and help my city. I don't like being here, and I'm here because of my city. Can I give these to somebody? Anybody?
Tom
take it.
Franzen right
All
behind
right,
you.
and I have something else to say. If you have not done so already, get out there and exercise your right to vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Spinelli?
First off, I want to make a public announcement. A friend of mine, Annette Stanley, asked me to tell you all that Saturday from 3 to 5, they'll be collecting coats and blankets for the homeless at Walmart on Bechtel Avenue by the Lawn and Garden Center. One of the things that I want to talk about is the landlords and the way that they're taking care of their properties. 2 doors down from me, I have a group of Haitian people that I've gotten to know, and they tell me that they're paying rent of $500 a month. I mean, it's ridiculous what some of the rent being paid for in this city and some of the conditions of some of these houses that people are living in. Why can we not, this may be the state legislature, why can we not do like New York and have a renter's court? Why can we not have rent control? If the property's not worth $100,000, you shouldn't be renting it for $1,500 a month. I have a friend that lives over on Tibbetts Avenue. He's paying $1,600 a month. They're getting ready to raise it to $1,750. A lot of these corporations and outside landlords have come in and started to take advantage because, I mean, they know there was an influx, so they're taking advantage of those people. They're taking advantage of the people here, which is, I think, one of the reasons we've got such a bad homeless problem. And I'm just asking you all to try and do something about it. I mean, I've been there, I've rented off slumlords. Yes, they're bad, but there should be something to make them fix and make homes livable and actually rent them to people so that they can afford them, not take their entire life savings just to have a roof over their head for a month. Thank you.
Charles Jackson?
What I would like to make a comment on is that comment that the lieutenant of the sheriff department made. You know, I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat, but that's kind of a harsh statement to make. And he wants to blame it on the medicine. You know, just wonder how long he's been having these thoughts since he's been an officer for 22 years. Maybe I think that a smack on the hand is the wrong decision that his superior made. I think that maybe he should, let's say, get suspended, say 3 to 6 months, no pay, get put in anger management, because he definitely needs anger management. And if, with some kind of stipulations, if he misses anger management meeting, he gets fired, or maybe Mr. Wilson, the safety director. I don't know what avenues he takes, but maybe he can look into it. And I think something else needs to be done besides a slap on the wrist. But that's kind of scary for some people. You know, if you're a Democrat, basically, I can just let you lay there and die. And see that, and I listen to you talking about you can't get up and threaten people. But that, in a sense, what that lieutenant said is kind of a threat to people. If you're a Democrat, I'm not going to help you, you know, because I supposedly know who you voted for. And then I think he also made a comment that weapons and ammo's not cheap. So how are we supposed to support? Now, I don't have nothing against the sheriffs or the city police or prosecutors or any law enforcement agency. But in this situation, something really needs to be done besides a slap on the wrist. And hopefully somebody will recommend that and different avenue will be taken. I appreciate you letting me get up and talk.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Wes Babian?
Mayor Rue and commissioners, I wish to thank you for these opportunities to speak. I know that there are very real and complex issues that are brought here and profoundly personal ones, as we hear. And I do trust that you care. And I also trust that you'll do your best to respond to whatever is brought here. However, it's also true that when we speak, often the words that we use reveal much about who we are as persons. It's better to know what attitudes are at play in our community than not to know. I want to reiterate, however, that I'm confident that some of what is spoken here does not fully reflect our wider community, the opinions and the attitudes of our wider community. Caring, hope, and positivity is resident here among us. I affirm that the service that the commission, the city staff, the police, and our fire departments are providing is meant for our good. This is a challenging work of doing justice on behalf of all those who live here. I also want to affirm the patience, grace, and thoughtfulness of our Haitian neighbors that they have displayed in these difficult times. They are contributing in many ways and showing the way to what is better. I believe that it is essential to honor the common humanity of one another with respect and decency. My hope is that we will continue to see our way forward in this endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you. Henry Willis Shepherd? Good, sir.
Last 15 months, I've been homeless. I had a disclaimer put on my door that wasn't correct over an issue of music, poetry, idea, invention of sorts, and a few misconceptions and a few bad breaks. I am 7.5 years basically out of prison and haven't went back during that time. Lately, been having a problem getting my ID together so I can secure gainful employment, basically. At the same time, with some of these said things, my thoughts were lofty you know what I mean, as far as the community is concerned, and the ideas and the goals that I had was to better myself, my family, first off, and then every person that I could through business aspects and things of that nature right here in this community. I've also not seen anybody in about 15 months out of my family, nobody. Some of them were local, but I did see, excuse me, I did see some of their possessions go different places, and I'm gonna leave that out of it, which I did not care for, very distasteful. You know, basically, if I may, I'm from another country, sir. Fashion is what I wanted to get into, number one. Not low maintenance, high brand labels that I wanted to bring here and put a store right here. I wanted to put my children in them stores and other people that could work at a, you know what I mean? It would be different, because what I was proposing in my thought process was to bring Prada, Gucci, stuff like that right here in this community and post up myself with my family helping me run it. So my idea was an invention that positively could net about $1 billion. But some people don't see forward for me to move forward. I've had some issues with law enforcement in the past. No mystery. I don't hate it. It's just life. Good and bad, because I've been on both sides. I'm a Christian. I've had some issues with some of the believers. I've been told by people that it's impossible for me to succeed. I had all the people in the right places and all the things to move forward. Some people take, all you got to do is ask. Some people are willing to give. But you know, it wasn't meant for just myself, but for me to gain and for somebody else to get help too. So that's all I'm gonna say. But as for most of it, I had a problem at the hospital with people taking things that don't belong to them.
Yes, sir. Thank you for coming and addressing us. Your time is up. Appreciate you for being here. While the state has been helping us in the community and operating and some helping us enforce some safety, Director Wilson's again with us, so he's going to update us on what the state has been helping us with since the last 2 weeks and beyond.
Thank you, Mayor Rue, and members of the commission. I appreciate the opportunity to come talk about the surge that the Highway Patrol is doing here in the city. And I think in the interest of transparency and being open with what we're doing, it's important for us to report these statistics out, not only to you, but to the members of the public who are here. So again, this operation, it's increased patrol. It's a proactive enforcement of distracted driving, extreme speed, reckless driving, and stoplight violations here in the city. It started on September 11th at the request of the mayor to address some of the issues that you were having with crashes and reckless driving here in the city. And as I've talked before, it's data driven. We focus on specific areas of the city where you have had a higher number of crashes or higher reports of reckless driving. To that end, since September 11th of this year, the Ohio State Highway Patrol has made 1,294 stops here in the city. 821 of those resulted in tickets for one infraction or another. 473 of those were warnings or non-enforcement stops. So that's kind of where we're at. I will tell you this, at least anecdotally, we were with troopers earlier today at the Springfield Post. We went over and actually your city prosecutor went over with us. We talked to them about what they were seeing. And anecdotally, in the areas where we're doing some enforcement, they're reporting that it does appear that there's at least a little bit of slowdown. I did talk to somebody who had reached out to the Department of Public Safety, had seen me speak at one of these meetings, who had some specific questions about some of the traffic stuff. And she, when I talked to her as well, she said that she anecdotally was noticing when she drove in town that at least on those thoroughfares, folks seem to be driving a little more slowly, or at least not as fast as they were. So again, it's all about changing behavior, making folks safe here in the community and addressing some of the issues that you've had. I have talked to a couple people. Again, I told you from the get-go, we were trying not to get out into the neighborhoods. I have talked to several people who said that they've had some traffic issues in the neighborhoods. If there's any guidance that you have for us with respect to where you want us to move some of the enforcement, we certainly will follow that, and we will work proactively in those areas. So you just let me know.
I think this would definitely be something that the city manager and the chief would want to get with you if there's other areas with data that you have.
Okay.
For sure. Just want to say that publicly, that would be something that would be, I'm sure the commission would be welcome that as long as the data supports it.
Excellent. Yeah. And again, anecdotally, a lot of times you get reports of citizens who are in these areas who are reporting, hey, people are driving like it's a drag strip. So
yeah,
you guide us, and we'll kind of follow your lead where you want us to go. Couple other issues for you. I heard the question about ATVs. Somebody brought up something on ATVs. So we actually work from time to time. Toledo had a big problem with ATVs in the summertime, people driving recklessly through alleys and on street. We do go up and help the Toledo Police Department with that. We use our helicopter. We use our aviation unit. Nobody chases these four-wheelers. It's too dangerous. But what we'll do is we'll ride overhead if there's reports or we can see it in the helicopter. We just follow people. And we talk to your ground units or talk to the ground units and eventually just guide them into where the people get off the four-wheelers, and then they can address that behavior at that point. I would recommend, again, if you're going to address this, you probably need to work with the prosecutor's office and the courts and seize those four-wheelers and actually do something that has some teeth. The worst thing we can do is, commit all these assets or resources and then do nothing to address it. So I would ask you to do that. The other thing that I heard today that I'll address, and again, typically when I talk at these meetings, I address things that I'm uniquely positioned to address because of my position. I heard the question about the lieutenant from the sheriff's office who made those comments. First of all, as you all know, that's account of the elected sheriff issue. So that certainly needs to be addressed with the elected sheriff, or at least the incoming sheriff, and probably the county commission, not the city commission. But that did bring up a really good point that I wanted to talk to after the city commission, you, Mayor Rue, about, and everybody in here. Because at a prior city commission meeting, I heard somebody bring up the fact that you are short officers. And that is a trend that's going on across the state and across the nation. Law enforcement, since COVID and since 2020, there was a mass exodus of law enforcement officers out of the profession. And the agencies are really scrambling to try to fill those voids. And what you have a lot of times is the Beaver Creeks, the Ketterings, the surrounding suburbs will pay significantly more for really kind of less risk a lot of times than working in an urban or semi-urban department for less pay. So we saw a lot of flight from our more urban or semi-urban departments into suburban areas, or people just left and went to Amazon. Like, I can make more money at Amazon. I don't have to worry about getting shot on the job. The reason I bring this up is because whenever you're running short staff and whenever people are putting pressure on you to fill those, obviously you want to fill those for the safety of the folks. There will be pressure for you to lower the standards. And you have to be extremely careful in hiring law enforcement not to lower your standard, or else it only takes one bad apple to ruin the bunch. And so as I sat and I heard that, I just wanted to reaffirm to you, and I know the chief is looking for the best qualified folks out there. Just fight the urge or fight the pressure to lower the standards. Get the best people. A community that's sitting here today, the community that these officers are protecting, deserve to be protected by the best and the brightest. So I just would encourage you to fight that. We also, Governor DeWine, a few years back, put into place the Office of Law Enforcement Recruiting out of the Department of Public Safety, and I can connect you all with our folks over there. We do a lot of stuff with respect to social media and videos and video production, trying to help you recruit folks in, so we can do that. So subject to any questions that you may have, I think that's my report for today.
Thank you so much. We'll go ahead and have comments from commissioners.
Yeah, I just had one I'll address. Is it Spinelli? You mentioned rent control and outside kind of landlords or LLCs, and I just wanted to I thought it was important to bring up, currently it is illegal for rent control in the state of Ohio. We've had this come up a few times before. And then also, I did ask Jill during the meeting, but she didn't know of any if it would be legal or illegal to prevent outside LLCs from buying property within the city. But I'm going to guess probably no. Just wanted to address those. But thank you.
I just want to say that I've spent a lot of time with our citizens, and I've met so many great people through this process of being a commissioner. And I just feel remiss that I should mention, we're on the eve of the presidential election, and I reflect on our community's journey, which has highlighted systemic flaws in both our challenges and strengths. We felt a range of emotions revealing divisions in a broken system that fails to support our citizens and newcomers. I have tried to lead this way, and I see citizens doing the same. By having courage to sit at tables with those who may not be like us, don't think like us, or feel like us, we are creating opportunities to listen and work towards finding mutual ground. As we move forward, let's support each other and strive for progress. I also want to mention about prioritizing your own mental health. Take a break, turn off the news, enjoy a walk, and spend time with family. Take a moment to breathe during this challenging time. Thank you.
Restaurant. I think it's been said more than once by a couple of commissioners, but please exercise your right to vote tomorrow. Extremely important, obviously. Also want to thank those that have come tonight to share their opinions and concerns. We actively listen. We'll go ahead and have Brian and staff answer any of the questions they can of the comments that were made tonight.
Yes, Commission, first I wanted to piggyback on what Director Wilson talked about as far as traffic enforcement. And I know Chief Elliott was going to talk briefly about the traffic enforcement that's been happening within our own division and making just giving you an idea of what we are doing as a division as well as it relates to traffic enforcement. Keep in mind that that's not all our officers are tasked with doing, but she's going to provide some stats on where we're at. So if Chief Elliott would like to talk to that situation.
Good evening, Mayor Rue and Commission. Thank you for allowing me this time to speak. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank again Director of Public Safety, Director Wilson, his team, the Ohio State Highway Patrol, just for their efforts and all that they've done to help us out. And it's no doubt made our city safer. And we've definitely seen the results from that. So we want to thank them again for all that they've done for us and the partnership that we have with them. In addition to, like you said, Mr. Heck, so our officers have also been working in tandem with OSP and working with their troopers on stops for the month of October, just to give you an idea, because I know there are a lot of questions as far as our officers and traffic enforcement and what we do. And like the city manager said, that is a facet of our job, and that is a large part of our job and our commitment. But our officers is also driven by calls for service and responding to calls for service every day. And we are seeing an increase in calls for service. With keeping that in mind, for the month of October, we had a total, our officers initiated a total of 230 traffic stops. To kind of put it in perspective, we also, in addition to that, we have traffic grants, and we spoke at the last commission about how we are awarded grant funding through the state to supplement and allow for additional initiatives that wouldn't take from officers from the street. So for those, we had a total of, on the first grant, we had 17 stops with 19 citations, and then 11 stops on the second grant with 15 citations. In addition, we also, with partnering with OSP, last week we held, bear with me, I'm trying to use my technology here for this. So for the 29th of October through November 3rd, our officers also were assigned to data-driven areas, partnering again with the data that OSP provides and gathers in those similar locations. So we had a total of 85 traffic stops, citations. We had 63 speed citations, 6 driving under suspension, 13 no operator's license, 9 red light violations, 4 distracted driving, 2 marked lanes, and 7 additional arrests. Just to give an update on that. Thank you.
Excellent. Dr. Estrop?
Chief, and perhaps Director Wilson, you'll want to weigh in on this. Some years ago, the General Assembly passed law that prohibited the use of the red light cameras or the speed cameras unless there was an officer present at that location. It would seem that perhaps we need to rethink that as a state. Would the reinstitution of the red light or traffic cameras without having an officer present be of assistance to us?
Dr. Estrop, I actually think, if my memory serves me correct, it wasn't the General Assembly, it was the Supreme Court. So I think the Supreme Court actually knocked down that law that allowed for those traffic cameras without someone present. So I don't know how you get back, since it's a court decision, I don't know how you get back around that, but there seems to be some interest in that. We look at it possibly in construction zones. You know, I know that the construction folks are because there's so many accidents in construction zones, I know they're interested in looking at that as well. So I think there's an appetite possibly for it in the General Assembly, except for the fact that you got to work around whatever that court decision was, and you got to just forgive me. I don't remember the actual legal reasoning off the top of my head, other than you're right. If you're going to have a camera, you got to have an officer.
Well, it just seems to me that with the advent of all the technology available to us, we're not using it now to our full advantage. And so I just want to encourage you and others at the state level. Let's see if we can do something that takes some of the pressure off our personnel.
Yes, and then I was going to have, again, to add on to what Director Wilson talked about in terms of the ATV and what's happening there. As he indicated, it is a challenge because it is very dangerous to chase these individuals. Our law director, Jill Allen, was going to speak briefly to legislation that the state recently passed through that will help with some of that in terms of seizing of those vehicles and so forth.
So there is legislation that I believe Governor DeWine signed in July that's effective in October that was about street racing, but it also added in to street racing any kind of stunt driving. It would also encapsulate drifting, donut street takeover, and it also allows courts as a penalty to have seizure of a vehicle, which is new. So it does include a different enforcement mechanism. It's Ohio Revised Code 4511.251.
Thank you. And then I wanted to answer a question that came up at the last meeting or last two meetings as it relates to our website and our immigration FAQs. I did have a conversation with Health Commissioner Chris Cook, who again, the data or the information came from that we presented up there. And he did say he pulled a lot of his information from past reports and studies that indicate challenges that communities that experience large increases in immigrant population experience in their communities. And so those 5 or 6 items that relate to the challenges that are faced are challenges that have been seen historically in communities that see a large increase in an immigrant population.
Okay. I think what we'll do is we'll take a 3 to 5 minute intermission, and then we'll begin the rest of our meeting and the legislative agenda. Thank you. what I'm thinking. Agenda, the clerk will continue with first reading ordinances.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into an A101 agreement with Brumbaugh Construction Incorporated for the construction of a new fire station to be located on North Thompson Avenue for an amount not to exceed $4,996,000.
Is there comments on first readings? Dr. Estrop?
Heck, this seems to be a little lower than what we've paid for the other station. Is this because we don't have some of the, for instance, the Clark State features or the police, or our prices coming down in the construction field?
Commissioner, certainly this does not have the Clark State piece, but it does have the partnership with Box 27. I'll have Jason Vi, our Deputy Director of Public Safety and Operations, can speak to the bid process that we went through here and maybe shed some light on why we saw some more competitive numbers.
Good evening, and thank you for your question. As mentioned, we recently held an open bidding period for the construction of Fire Station number 5. And during that time, the vendors had an opportunity to review the project and make what they felt like was the most appropriate bids. If you're not aware, existing station number 5 is very small. It's on Commerce Road, off Bechtel Avenue, and it's just not adequate for modern staffing needs. So the new station will be located on North Thompson Avenue. And as City Manager Heck mentioned, keeping in the theme with partnerships, Box 27 will have bay and storage area within that station. Box 27 is a group of volunteers that provides aid and support to our firefighters on scenes. And so we're very grateful for their support. As far as the bidding process, we were pleased. I think we had 5 or 6 interested bidders, and pleased with both the quantity and the quality of the bids. And again, as Dr. Estrop pointed out, also happy that we came in lower than the other project.
Thank you. Super news.
Are comments from the audience on first reading only? We'll continue with second reading ordinance.
Authorizing the purchase of one 2025 HV 507 SFA truck for an amount not to exceed $93,180.72 from Rush Truck Centers through the Ohio Department of Transportation Cooperative Purchasing Program in accordance with the provisions of Section 5513.01B of the Ohio Revised Code.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Other comments from commissioners? Dr. Estrop?
Pleased to see we're purchasing an international. It's nice to, where we can within the law, purchase here.
Yes,
Thank
correct.
you.
Comments from the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a subrecipient agreement with Neighborhood Housing Partnership of Greater Springfield Incorporated to provide CDBG funding for the Health and Safety Repair Program in an amount not to exceed $400,000.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Other comments from commissioners? Dr. Estrop?
I was wondering if you or perhaps Logan can give us a little more detailed information about this item.
Yeah, I'll have our Community Development Director, Logan Cobb, speak to this item.
Mayors, commissioners, good evening. Really excited to come before you this evening to talk about this item. This is an agreement with Neighborhood Housing Partnership, a local nonprofit that works to create affordable housing here in our community in Springfield. So this is an agreement that would take place currently through April 30th of 2026 with a not to exceed amount of $400,000. So $200,000 each program year. So this is for our home repair home repair grants to improve the health, safety, and accessibility of eligible properties here in Springfield. And those eligible properties would be those at 80% or below our local area median income. Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Comments from the audience? Or call the roll?
Dr. Estrop,
Yes?
Mrs. Houston,
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett,
Yes.
Mr. Rue.
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a subrecipient agreement with the Conscious Connect Community Development Corporation to provide CDBG funding to assist with the open space improvement to 4 community parks in an amount not to exceed $75,000.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Other comments from commissioners,
Keep up the good work.
from the audience? Or call the roll?
Dr. Estrop,
Yes?
Mrs. Houston,
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett,
Yes.
Mr. Rue.
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a subrecipient agreement with the Conscious Connect Community Development Corporation to provide CDBG funding to create public improvements for the South Side Incubator located at 515 South Yellow Spring Street in an amount not to exceed $50,000.
So moved.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Other comments from commissioners? From the audience? Or call the roll?
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes?
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Rue.
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement to purchase with Clark County Land Reutilization Corporation for the sale of certain real property, being 6 parcels located on West Grand Avenue and West Southern Avenue.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Other comments from commissioners? From the audience? Or call the roll?
Mrs. Tackett,
Yes.
Mrs. Houston,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes?
Mr. Rue.
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a subrecipient grant agreement with Clark County Land Reutilization Corporation to provide American Rescue Plan Act funding for the construction of 8 affordable housing single-family homes on Grand Avenue and Southern Avenue in an amount not to exceed $1 million.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Are there comments from commissioners? Excellent program. Comments from the audience? Or you, sir, if you would go to the microphone to speak. Thank you so much. And just for the record, state your name for the record. Thank you so much.
Charles Jackson. What, just out of curiosity, what are them houses going to go for?
Yes, if Director Cobbs wants to speak to that item, I know they are working under the same affordability program as it relates to AMI, but if you want to speak directly to the price range.
Yep, so I would have to look into the specific price point for these homes, but they will be building 8 homes in the period of 2 years. These will be for income qualified families or individuals. And to Mr. Heck's point, they do have to have a gross, it's a income qualifier, so they do have to have a gross income at or below 300% of the local poverty line. And there is grant assistance up to $50,000 available. But as for exactly what these homes will be sold for, I will look into that and circle back with you. These are going to be either 3-bedroom or 2-bedroom homes. Correct. So these are going to be built on Clifton, finishing out that development. Or no, I'm sorry. These are both, they are similar to Clifton, but these will be on Southern and Grand. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Dr. Estrop?
As I recall, I think in Mr. Harris, he present the price range in his presentation at our last meeting.
Yeah, he had some rough estimates of what it would cost. Obviously, construction costs when they come into it, but less than $200,000 homes.
Yeah. Is that on our website? Do you know, Brian?
I do not know, but I will check, and if it's not, we will add that.
All right, we'll put that on our website because I think the Director of Economic Development for the county, who runs the land bank, outlined what he anticipated the cost would be, and we'll put that on our website so people can look at it.
Other comments from the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Houston,
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mr. Rue.
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Garber Electrical Contractors Incorporated for the installation of a structured cabling system for Fire Station Number 6 for an amount not to exceed $91,385 and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Other comments from commissioners? From the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Houston,
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mr. Rue.
Yes.
Confirming and approving change order number 3 to the agreement between the city and Marker Incorporated, doing business as Marker Construction, for the construction of new Fire Station Number 6 to be located on South Charleston Pike, to increase the agreement in an amount not to exceed $167,135.22 for a total amount not to exceed $5,842,137.22 and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Ask the city manager if he could speak to some of these changes.
Yes, it's a series of change orders with various ups and downs. The two major change order items related to alterations to the HVAC system and then the interior liner walls for the pre-engineered building. So the bays of this structure is a pre-engineered building. And so once that was set, determining the interior liner walls that would be incorporated in there.
Thank you. Is there other comments from commissioners? From the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Tackett,
Yes.
Mrs. Houston,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mr. Rue.
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a real estate purchase contract with the Windsor Companies for the sale of certain real property located at 0 Sunset Avenue and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. City manager, could you speak to this as well?
Yes, Commission, this would allow us to enter into this purchase agreement with the Windsor Companies. The Windsor Companies, a developer out of Dayton, Columbus, have offices in both and have done significant progress or projects in both of those communities. They approached us about this property. Just to orient you, it's directly across from the Southern Village Shopping Center. We had acquired the 8.5 acres for a stormwater project. We were approached by the Windsor Companies about coming in and developing a affordable apartment project, which obviously housing across the spectrum is a need in our community. And they also talked with us about partnering, that their project is going to require some sort of retention pond, that we could work hand in hand with them. They can develop their project, and at the same time, we can meet our goals of the project or property to include and incorporate the needs for our stormwater project that was planned for that property.
Boy, win-win.
Yes, very much so.
This construction group has already done a couple large projects, I think on High Street. Is
High
that
Street,
right?
they did a large apartment redo, a remodel. This obviously would be a new construction, but again, this is within their bailiwick of what they do across communities in Ohio.
Thank you. Comments from the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Houston,
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mr. Rue.
Yes.
Appropriating the interests in real property hereinafter described for the purpose of providing necessary rights in real estate needed for the public purpose of making and repairing roads which shall be open to the public without charge, to wit, the safety improvements including pavement resurfacing, curb, handicap ramp and walk replacement, addition of pedestrian refuge islands, elimination of driveways, installation of tree lawn, traffic signal replacement, drainage improvements, and water service replacement on State Route 72, South Limestone Street, between Leffel Lane and Singer Street and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Brian, you must speak to this too.
Yes, so this is related to our South Limestone Corridor project. So as you know, we applied for and received safety funds from the state of Ohio to address the safety issues associated with State Route 72 or South Limestone Street from approximately Leffel Lane to Singer Street, which Singer Street is just north of Grocery Land. And this item specifically during a construction project like this, and specifically this South Limestone, where we're working to kick the sidewalks back, because as you know, you feel like you're walking in the travel lane along South Limestone. This will take the sidewalks back and create a buffer strip between the sidewalk and the travel lanes. And so that requires taking interest in real property for that right of way, because we were maxed out of our right of way. And so this is a collection of permanent and temporary easements that we appropriate through the court to compensate the property owners, but be able to move forward with the project itself.
Thank you. The comments from commissioners? Dr. Estrop.
I'm pleased with that we're going forward with this project. Having walked along South Limestone, sometimes I felt like my elbow was going to hit some of the mirrors on cars. So I think this is a significant step forward in improving pedestrian and traffic safety on that street. So thank you very much.
Comments from the audience? Go to the microphone, please. State your name.
My name is Wes Babian. I've been involved with South Limestone issues for lots and lots of years. Are there elevations of this? Can we see what this is going to look like? I'm interested in that.
Yeah, we can. I know at one point there were elevations on the website. I'll check to see if they're still on there. If not, we can put those back up as we get closer to the project. But also you can feel free to reach out to our city engineer at 525-5800 if you're interested in looking at the plan detail.
I am interested in that. Do we have a timeline when these?
Yeah, this project is set to kick off in 2025, so most likely in the middle of 2025.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments from the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Approving the 2025 calendar of the City Commission meetings to be held in the City Forum, City Hall, on Tuesdays, except for Monday, November 3rd, the City Commission retreat scheduled for Wednesday and Thursday, April 16th and 17th, in the Gothard Room, City Hall, second floor, and the budget meetings scheduled for Wednesday and Thursday, November 12th and 13th, in the Gothard Room, City Hall, second floor.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Other comments from commissioners? From the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
And there was one item added to the agenda, consenting to the reappointment of Jeanette Anderson, James Bacon, and Lisa Dunn to the Community Police Advisory Team.
I'll move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. I appreciate, again, their willingness to be involved with the police advisory team. Are there other comments from commissioners? From the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes. At this point, we'll have announcements from commissioners, if there are any. Dr. Estrop?
Like you, Mayor Rue, I want to encourage everyone to go out and vote tomorrow. Obviously, a pivotal election at the national level, but there are also important decisions to be made down the ballot. So please take a look at not only all the people running for office, but the issues. And we know this commission has endorsed the CTC levy, which will allow us to build some new buildings and provide more space for more students at that facility, the old JVS facility. And we've also endorsed the Springfield City School District's renewal levy. No new taxes. We are not raising the tax rate. So we want to encourage you to go out and vote and also encourage you to support those two issues.
Other announcements, Commissioner Tackett?
Just a thank you to everyone that helped with downtown trick or treat. I believe we had over 2,500 kids this year and candy given out. So thank you to fire, thank you to the police, thank you to the businesses that set up, and just to the community, the city helping us get that going. But the community, I believe we all had a great time, had nothing but good feedback, and it was just an enjoyable night for all of us together in the community. So thank you for everyone that came and participated in that.
Announcement? Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Tackett,
Yes.
Mrs. Houston,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.